Hello, you are listening to a podcast. That means at this time I normally waste 5 minutes of your life telling you about Squarespace or Stamps.com, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to jump straight in with Brad and John's game reviews. And instead, here's Brad to tell you a little more about what this podcast is going to be about.
Hello. Essentially, I'm a big fan of Mark Kermode and Simon Mayo's film reviews. And there doesn't seem to be much like that in the gaming world. So I've got interesting slicked back hair, so I thought I could take on the role of Mark Kermode. And John could be a Simon Mayo for me. But
Yeah,
essentially,
I'm not massively happy about taking on a Simon Mayo role, but I'll do what needs to be done.
I don't mind Simon Mayo. He's a decent enough bloke, and he knows
To be
his
fair,
stuff.
I think I always get him mixed up with someone else who I didn't like. But
Simon Le Bon or something like that.
no, I don't know. There's so many of those 80s DJs, and so many of them have done dodgy stuff now that I'm not sure what ones are okay to like and what ones aren't.
He's not had anything like that yet, so he seems to be
No.
okay. But yeah, no. Essentially, what we'll be doing each week is breaking down the charts, looking at our game of the week, um, giving quick reviews of some games, more in-depth discussion on others, looking ahead to what's coming the next week, and then whatever else happens to flow from it. Looking at about half hour of your time, so you haven't got to spend lots of time to try and find us. You could listen to us during your lunch break or on the journey to work. And yeah, that'll be that every Friday. That'll be with you.
Okay, so we're going to start off with the charts, are we?
Yes.
Okay. And when's this chart taken from? This is the last week, is
This
it?
is this is last week's chart. So obviously, this is weekend in the 22nd. Obviously, if you listen to this on the day we put it up, it's the Friday. And this is the latest charts from MVC.
Right. And did Simon Mayo do the top 40 on Sunday nights in the 80s? Was that part of his role? Do you want me to like
I
new
don't.
entry at 10?
Oh no, we'll
Bit
just
of,
talk about charts 10 to 1. We don't care about new entries and
oh,
stuff like that. You can
okay.
you can
So
80s it up as much as you want over time. You don't really mind however you fancy doing it.
okay, I'll see what I can remember. But in at 10 then is Battlefield Hardline. Tell us about this. What is it?
Battlefield Hardline is yet more Battlefield.
So a bit more hardline.
It's very much takes the hard line.
Right.
But do you know what? I've played a bit of this. I've still not really touched the campaign mode. And I wasn't too keen to start with because it just got bad mouthed by everyone.
It always
Um,
does in Battlefield though, doesn't it? That's the sort of
it does, and you know what? I've started the single player now, and I quite like the format. The story is stupid,
right.
um, but I don't expect it to be anything but. But I like this idea of it's based on a TV show, and it's the way it introduces the characters. It's their actor names for their character names, but obviously that's then played like an actual TV series or an actual real life thing, which is just really, really bizarre and stupid. There's so many bits that happen in it, and you just go, really? Are you really going to do that? And it's stupid and it's fun.
See, I played Battlefield 4 against my better judgment. I bought that game knowing that I don't like and am crap at first-person shooters and don't like playing them online, which is obviously what that game is. So I played quite a bit of the single player of that until I gave up because it kept crashing, deleting saves, didn't work. So that game just obviously wasn't for me. I'm not going to even comment on its quality. But does this one differ much from Battlefield 4?
Not particularly. No. It works.
Right.
The multiplayer stuff. I mean, I'm playing on PC, and I don't know many people that are playing on PC, so I haven't really been able to form squads for it or anything like that.
Right.
But it's Battlefield and new maps. It's getting to the point where I'm now looking at Battlefield and going, should this just not be a service now?
Right.
Where they upgrade it, whenever they feel like they've got something new, they can pump into it, just give us new maps on a regular basis. Make it I don't want to say the words, but almost like a free to play base. And then you buy the maps. Because to
Yeah.
be honest, no one cares about the single player for Battlefield.
But while people are still paying 40 quid a year for it,
They're not
that's
going to change it. No.
no.
Well, people aren't even paying 40 quid a year for it. They're paying hundreds, over £100 a year probably by the time they're done.
Oh, with all the special edition crap.
Yeah, and all the map packs and the season pass. I've been
Well,
dragged into that as well. It's
if those people are going to pay that money for that, it helps fund all the other innovative products that EA come out with. So,
FIFA.
exactly. Okay, so talking of online shooters that should probably just be a service and that only weird obsessive people play, number 9 is Destiny.
Yeah, I was stupid with this one as well. I bought the special edition of this right at the very start, thinking it was going to be the next big thing. It's good, yeah, but I don't feel any desire to carry on.
I played the beta thing when that was out. I think was it a beta or something or a free
Yeah,
week or whatever. Um, Again, it's not for me. I don't do these kind of massive online shooty games. And yeah, just I again can't comment on it, but it seemed whereas with Battlefield I could play it and I could see what the appeal was for people that were good at that sort of thing. With Destiny, I can't see what the appeal is. I mean, it's obviously there because people love it, and it's obvious. I never liked Halo, so call me whatever you like.
you're on the wrong foot already, really, aren't you? So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I with Halo, I could see the appeal. I could see why people like it, and that had a bit of a single player campaign, which I did play a bit of. But yeah, no, Destiny. I was never destined to play that game.
yeah, well, but I mean, everyone knows now, what they feel about Destiny. There's enough people that are liking it that it's still in the charts after what we're looking at now, good few months at least.
Yeah, I don't think there's not much left to say about that game, really, is there? Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
next week we'll complete. We'll go, yeah, Destiny's still in there, and that'll be all we'll
yeah.
say next week.
So in at 8, then Dying Light. I don't know a lot about this. From what I saw, it was another zombie game. Is that right?
It is another zombie game. It's from the guys behind Dead Island, but we've added parkour. And do you know what? It's shonky as hell, but it's fun.
Right.
And that's pretty much all you need to say about it. It's an enjoyable game. It's not setting the world alight. It's nothing special, but it's not bad. You can go in there, spend a good few hours with it, leave it, and move on.
Right. So are you playing that? Is it on a PC? What's it on, Dying Light? Is that on everything or?
Yeah, it's on all next gen. It's on next gen consoles and PC. I can't remember if it's on previous gen. I don't think it was, but yeah, PC next gen consoles.
Okay. So zombies running around, killing them, and
Yeah,
it's Dead Islandy type
yeah,
stuff.
but mixed with some Mirror's Edge. It is.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the
I see.
parkour stuff is actually really, really good, and I like to see that you do spend a lot of time trying to run from zombies or find ways to leap across the buildings to not interact with them as much as you can, or finding ways to distract them so you can get through. There's some nice touches there, but I'd say it's not one that I'm going to look back on in years to come and go, do you remember Dying Light? It's just
Right.
not that sort of game.
Okay. Okay. Well, another game raging against the dying of the light and staying in the charts is Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. I mean, I am lost with Call of Duties. I don't know what is this. Is this
It's
the
Call of
new one?
Duty. Yeah, it's the newest one. It's Call of Duty. It's Kevin Spacey, the game, where he seems to play a bit more manic version of himself from Netflix's House of Cards. But apart
Right.
from that, it seems to be Call of Duty does Titanfall, not quite as well as Titanfall.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard. Right. So this is the one. Right. And this, I don't know what goes on with those games. I gave up on those a long time ago. Um, don't understand them, but
They've
they
got
all
their fan
seem,
base.
yeah.
And they obviously keep it in the charts for again another half a year at least.
I mean, there's people that buy levels and things in this, aren't there? And I just don't. From what I hear about this game, it sounds like it's played predominantly by people of about 14 or 15 and obsessively,
Mm.
and it's a weird world that I'm just too old for. But
It, I reviewed this. I liked it at the start, and I felt I was able to compete in the online. As the weeks went by and I was playing other stuff and then jumping back into this, I found that I just couldn't compete. And do you know what? Fair enough. If there's people here who want to dedicate their time to this and get what they get out of it, great.
yeah,
Um,
I mean, well, yeah, I've got no problem with it existing at all. I just don't understand it, and I mean, the competing online, I would never be able to. So
it's
okay, so
Call of Duty is as Call of Duty does, basically.
okay, so moving on from possibly four games in a row there that aren't really for me to the first one that would be for me if it hadn't been just crap this year, and it's FIFA 15,
I
which just
just sports games at the moment. I want arcade sports games back. I don't even want to comment too much on FIFA. It's a god awful mess. The NHL is, as Madden is, as most basketball games are at the moment. There's no decent sports games on the market, and I think FIFA is one of the worst at the moment.
right. Well, as we've reached a game that I know a little bit about this time, um, Pro Evo or PES or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah,
2015 is quite a good football game this year.
yeah,
Quite a good football game. That's the one I've preferred. FIFA 15, I did get through some weird sort of thing where I think I got it a bit cheaper. Quite excited about it as they suck me in every year around August, September. I start thinking, oh, it might be quite good. And I liked what they did with putting all the Premier League stadiums in, and like the pitch degradation was nice. They overdid the net bouncing. People that know what I'm talking about will agree. Um, but the game was awful. I quite liked FIFA 14, and I thought 15 was awful. That might be a controversial opinion, but that's what we do here. It's thought-provoking stuff. I'm hopeful that 16 will go back to being semi-decent, but who knows? But it remains in the charts, and I imagine it's probably at number 6 because it's the time of the year where it starts going down to 10 or 20 quid. So
yeah. It's also free on EA Access at the moment if you've got an Xbox One. Um, so I can't see this staying in the charts much longer.
right,
£3 a month for EA Access, and you get, I think, the latest ones. You've got NBA 15, don't touch that, it's awful. NHL 15, and FIFA 15. So if you like your sports games, EA Access, this isn't going to stay in the charts much longer. But sports games are like being in an abusive relationship. Every time you think you're about ready to get out, they do something that makes you think, do you know what? It's not all bad. I'll give them another chance. And yeah,
yeah. I
that's
mean,
you take a beating a couple of weeks later.
I get my football game every year, and just quick tangent. The one sports game I'm excited about this year is the rumored Joe Montana American football
Yes.
game that is meant to come out, and it's meant to be made by the people that made NFL 2K5, which is still the best American football game ever made.
Yep.
10 years later,
Yep.
11 years later, even. Um, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be about, but the rumors are that it's coming out on Xbox One and PC. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully, it will be what people are hoping it will be. And on a PC, even if it hasn't got the licenses, people will just mod the shit out of it and make it what you want it to be. So that's the one I'm looking forward to.
Yep.
And okay, so we'll move on to something completely different. Final Fantasy 10, 10, 2, HD. What the hell are they doing with these games now?
Like this is where I give all my support. I played Final Fantasy X way back when, and I really liked it. Like most people, not everyone, just for clarification, but like most people, my first experience of a Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy VII, and that was amazing. And I played 8, skipped 9, and played 10. Loved 10, thought it was absolutely superb. Didn't play 10 too. Got the HD remakes on the PlayStation Vita, which was absolutely wonderful. I'm still probably about 2/3 of the way through X, um, and they've just brought it out on PS4. And the reason I'm happy for this to be out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One is my son can play it. He's
Right.
fed up of him looking over my shoulder, trying to play it on my Vita, which I won't let him because you can only have the one account on the Vita. So now I can transfer my save to the PlayStation 4 and carry it on there. He can also play it on his own account, and it's become something we'll sit down as a family and play together, because there's one thing Final Fantasy does really well. It's story. It's not good story all the time. Some of
Mhm.
it's so out there that it's a bit pants, but it does story really well, and we're enjoying playing this, and I'm glad it's around. And it's good to see it doing well in the charts as well.
Are there no awkward sex scenes in this game then? I mean, RPGs now seem to all have an awkward sex scene or two, but
No, this is a proper traditional Japanese RPG. This isn't one of those moe type ones.
you see, I used to like the idea of these games. When I first got into games, I used to love an RPG, or at least I used to love the idea of an RPG. And I played Final Fantasy VII, and I quite liked that. And I still think I like these sorts of games. And when I see them, I think, oh yeah. And I bought some on a Vita a couple of years ago. I bought like the PlayStation 1 thing or whatever it was, a
Yeah,
Final Fantasy 3 or 4, whatever the best one's meant to be, 6 maybe. And I bought it for about £2, and I thought I'm never going to play this, but I bought it because I just buy things that I think I should or would have liked. I buy things for my 13-year-old self that my 35-year-old self is never going to actually play.
yeah.
It's just weird. But the best game they ever made was Secret of Mana Square. They've never.
Never played that.
You've never played Secret of Mana.
No, I should.
You should.
I
You
really
really, really
should.
should. I mean, at the moment, I played Secret of Mana with a friend back in 1994 or 95, and we played it in a two-player mode, and we both kind of got obsessed with it for a month or a couple of months, however long it was. And, that was it. We left school, didn't see him for 20 years. On the 20-year anniversary of playing that, it just happens we've got back in touch with him, and we found Secret of Mana 2 or Senken Densetsu 3, whatever it's called. So we're now going to play through that to celebrate 20 years in Secret of Mana.
Nice.
So that brings us on quite neatly, I think, to Mortal Kombat. Is it X or 10 with this?
It's Roman numerals in it. It's Mortal Kombat. It's MKX, Mortal Kombat 10, whatever you want. It's fine.
Right. So it is officially the 10th one, because I
It
heard
is,
somebody
yes.
calling it X as if it was like something else.
Yeah, it's basically, if you count it for all the official ones, it is 10.
Right. Okay. So is this any good? Have you played it? What?
I finally learnt my lesson. I can't play one-on-one fighting games. And it's the modern gaming's done this to me. I used to play Street Fighter with friends all the time, or on my own, and even with my mum and things like that. And I used to think I was good, and then I discovered I wasn't good. And when I discovered I wasn't good, I became more and more frustrated as they balanced those games towards the professionals, and I just went, no. My only experience of Mortal Kombat X is watching Giant Bomb. We love Giant Bomb, by the way, if anyone's listening and can tell them we love them and promote us. And watch them playing it. I get more fun watching other people play that than I would playing it.
Yeah.
It looks fine. I don't know. I know there's a whole thing about the DLC and the structure there and whatever, but it looks okay for the mechanics, and that's about all I can say, really.
I never liked Mortal Kombat. I never liked its aesthetic, if we want to get pretentious about it, or something about it. It was for the sort of people that I just didn't like. I can't explain that at all. I really liked Street Fighter because everyone did at that time in the early 90s. And about 5 years ago now, I got quite obsessed with Street Fighter 4 and decided that I wanted to get back to my at least level of mediocrity that I had in the early 90s. And I got to a point where I was the 914th best Ryu in the world. And there's a lot of people that play as Ryu in that game.
Mm.
So, I was fairly pleased with that. I mean, people that play the game a lot would still beat me, but I was doing 18 hit combos and stuff. And so, yeah, there's something in those games, but you just need a lot of time to compete. And
It's learning things like frame counts and stuff like that, and
Yep,
it's like,
I got into all of that. Never really had the skill to sort of apply it, but I was starting to understand it. But then I got a job, and and that's the thing. It is a job, and I don't understand people that are able to play loads of these fighting games because it's so much stuff to keep in your head. Things like, oh, is that safe on block? Is this like, can I counter that? What does this character do? So, I mean, I just played as one character, and it took everything to remember how to do anything with that.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's just too much for me now. But
I suppose it's the same. And the way I look at this, I think we'll save this probably as a discussion we'll probably end up having on another show, or GameStone Live or something like this. But the thing I noticed with fighting games, and what's happening now with a lot of games actually, and as they become more and more professional, if you want, is that if you are going to dedicate yourself to a Street Fighter game, and go as pro as you can with it, then that is going to be your thing. You don't see someone going, "Oh, I do sports. What do you do? Football." All right, okay. So, can you do ice hockey? Can you do, can you do Formula One? Can you do all this? You don't. If someone says they play
yeah,
football, they play football. If
yeah,
someone wants to go pro as a Street Fighter player, then that is going to be what they dedicate their time to. They might hone their skills on some other games and stuff like that just to keep fresh and what have you. But what's going to happen over more and more time is I think actually going pro in games is going to become a viable option for kids that are 5, 6 years old now. They will grow up, and I think when they start hitting 12, if they you'll be able to spot the kids that go, that kid can make it. He can be a professional Street Fighter
yeah.
player, or he could be a professional FIFA player and stuff like that. And the money's going to be there for them to make it worthwhile going
They'll have
at it.
grizzled old scouts going up and down the country looking for
Yeah.
talent. Yeah,
And it's the fighting games and the MOBAs and things like that are going to be the games that are at that top level and certain FPSs and things like that. So it's not going to be me sitting there sort of doing a half decent job and NHL is going to make me money. But it's going to be those that literally that is their life and they are that dedicated to it and they'll be able to do something with it. And you could see just by the amount of numbers that turn up to these tournaments every couple of months, isn't they? Have one of these fighting tournaments.
yeah. I mean, I don't get it myself. I mean, I get it, but I just don't. I've not got the time for it. I've barely got time to play the games I want to play. I haven't got time to watch other people play them. I'll watch video reviews and things like that if I'm interested in the game, but watching tournaments of people doing things that I don't understand what they're doing, I think the problem is that for a lot of these things, you need to be quite into the game yourself
Yeah.
to be able to watch it and get anything out of it. Like Street Fighter, I watched a few things, but didn't, you know, didn't really get much out of watching it, and I kind of knew a bit about it at the time. So yeah, but yeah, I think you're right. There's something to that in the future, possibly. Um, but we'll move on. And Grand Theft Auto 5.
There's nothing that could be said that hasn't been said about Grand Theft Auto 5. It's wonderful. It doesn't surprise me that it's sitting in the top three on a regular basis. The PC version's amazing. And yeah, GTA. It's the best GTA yet.
Um, yeah, I haven't got much more to say about Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm guessing it's number 3 because the PC version's just come out,
Yeah.
which is, the best version if you can run it, and it is fairly demanding to run how you'd like it to run. All I'll add is that this morning I had Watchdog round filming me for various reasons, and they wanted to film me playing a game, and the game they chose was Grand Theft Auto 5 on the PlayStation 4. It soon became apparent that I wasn't going to be able to get into any cars because then they'd have to clear all the licenses for the music that plays, and none of us could figure out how to turn the radio off. So they filmed me walking about on foot in Grand Theft Auto 5, and I decided to just start following a woman along the street for about 5 minutes or 10 minutes while they filmed it all, and then just punched her in the back of the head. And I think that sums up Grand Theft Auto 5 quite neatly.
I
That's
love
what
to
it's
think
about.
that's the point where they just went, yeah, stop filming. Stop
Yeah,
filming. That's it. It's
yeah.
done now.
I mean, there was one guy with a camera filming it, and there was another guy who just had nothing to do while I was doing it, and he was just standing there watching me do it. And he just sort of could see what I was doing. I was going through everyone's swimming pools at first, just jumping into a row of houses, various swimming pools, and then started following this woman, and he was sort of starting to find it amusing. And then I just punched him in the back of the head, and you could hear him trying to stifle his laugh. Um, but yeah, hopefully that is the moment. Um, but moving
Excellent.
on, and Wolfenstein, the Old Blood, which is the new game, is it? Or is it
Yes.
the new one that's the old one?
No, this is the new one, the prequel to the main game.
So this is number two in the charts, which is, well, I've got no expectations where these games are go because I don't really follow it, but that seems to be quite high for this game.
Well,
Did the original thing sell well?
I believe it did actually. Do you know what? Seeing this in at number two, I think is great news. It is essentially, and this shows something moving forward. These standalone expansions that we're getting, I think, are going to be the new DLC. And if it's the quality of this, all for it. I think the Assassin's Creed guys have done a couple of standalone expansions, which again have been really, really good. And probably, I think some people claimed the Freedom Cry one was better than one of the main game overall in terms of pacing and stuff like that. But Wolfenstein is not just that it's an expansion or doing well, but the fact it's doing well just shows. Do you know what? There's still room for games that are just big, stupid fun, where you can dual wield big weapons, machine guns and sniper rifles, whatever you want, dual wield them and just
I do
go
that every time I use the toilet. But
uh, mow down Nazis and stuff like that. And do you know what? It doesn't hide the Nazi thing or anything like that. And it's just really good to see. And some of the little touches it's got, like and I still love this from the original, the German Beatles and stuff like that, and how sort of everything's all like German rather
yeah,
than, it's just absolutely wonderful. And this, I've only played a couple of the early levels so far. It's sitting there waiting for me to spend some good time with it, and I just cannot wait to dive in.
you see, I heard about. I know this is like the add-on expansion or whatever, or the next game in this duo, but I heard about the original one and heard it was quite good, and everyone was a bit surprised it was quite good. And I was interested, but I keep getting put off because at the end of the day, it is a first-person shooter, and they're not my thing. But the whole sort of Nazis, if they'd won the war and it was the 60s and all of that sort of thing, there's something about that appeals to me.
Mm.
Like when I was a kid, I used to sort of like stay off school as much as I could, and I'd stay at home and watch like old war movies that were on in the afternoons, and sort of get a bit obsessed by it. And I used to go to school and when I used to draw a picture. I draw pictures of World War II planes fighting, and got really, really good at drawing swastikas on the planes. And I'd be really critical of everyone else's attempts to draw a swastika. I'd nailed it. So I got quite into the Nazi aesthetic, if not the politics, as a sort of
Yeah.
7-year-old. Um, so yeah, a bit potentially troubling, possibly, and worrying. But I ended up going more the other way and became a borderline communist instead.
Well,
But
even as a Jew myself, it's I don't look at Nazi paraphernalia and just go, oh no, I'm offended. I look at it, but I'm intrigued, and especially when you look at the propaganda side of stuff and the art they produce based around it all, and seeing how Wolfenstein especially used that to create this world, it's believable world as well.
yeah,
That this is what it would be like, and what's really good with the Old Blood is that obviously this is heading to before you had this Nazi win takeover stuff. And so you haven't got as much of that in this one, but it's still, you could see the transition happening, and it is just really, really good. And to see all that is just really well, but it's embodied by, even if you're not a big fan of first-person shooters, Wolfenstein throws all that out the window, and is just an absolute joy to play. You end up having this manic laugh as you're playing it, because it's just so stupid. It's wonderful.
yeah. I mean, say what you like about the Nazis, but you just don't get that level of graphic design in politics these days. Do you? It's just not the same.
No,
Um, we should probably move on and talk about number one, which is a game that I saw your review of, and you quite liked it. It's a
Yeah,
personal 10 out of 10 for you, but I think you gave it an 8, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Okay, and it's Project Cars.
Hmm. This has surprised me that this is in at number one.
I think a lot of people with a PlayStation 4 have been desperate for a racing game. I think that's probably what it is.
Yeah, but still, Project Cars is one that surprises me that it is in at number one. It's a lot of people have already got it because they crowdfunded it,
Right.
so they got that, and I don't think that counts towards chart sales. And a lot of those have obviously got that on PC, so that takes a huge chunk of it. The game, it's not quite as hardcore as an Assetto Corsa or iRacing or anything like that, but it's up that level. It's if you play a game like Forza or Gran Turismo and you turn off all the assists and things like that, you're still given some assists. The game has that in to make it playable with a pad and to make it accessible for people still, that sort of thing. Project Cars is a totally different kettle of fish. You turn off assists, and they're all gone. But it has this brilliant setting, this assist setting that has the option of real. So if a car uses traction control in real life for racing, you get
Right.
traction control. If it doesn't, you don't. So you throw a Caterham around a track that doesn't have traction control,
Mm.
and you get to feel the difference between that and maybe one of the GT cars or Formula One car, which will have that built in, those sort of things. And you really tell the difference in the cars.
Are you playing this on a pad?
I am playing this on a pad. I haven't got a wheel
No.
at the moment. I kind of want to invest in a wheel for it, but I'm happy playing it on a pad. It does need a lot of tinkering. It's which is again why it surprised me it's done so well. 'Cause the amount of tinkering it needs is to get it as you want it is a lot. And again, as you change from car to car, you might need to change a couple of settings in the pad to make it feel right with that car. If you use the same pad setting for a kart as you do for a Formula One style car, it's not going to work because you need to change the steering sensitivity and that sort of thing. Um, but just, in my review, I said my favourite racing game of all time is Toka Touring Car Championship. It's not the best racing game of all time. I gladly will agree to that, but it's always been my favourite. And the more I play a Project Cars, the more I believe this is replacing Toka Touring Car Championship as my favourite because the focus is on look, these are the championships. There's no career of which to speak
Yeah.
of where you level up and unlock cars. If you want to go in and just race, Renault Clio's around for 20 odd years, build yourself a career doing just that. If you want to start in karts and make yourself all the way up to Formula One, you can do that, and it gives you the option. And if you come 18th in one race and fall out the points, that doesn't mean you've got to go and replay that so you can move on. That just means you need to do better in other races to potentially win the championship. If you don't, you go back the next season and try again. It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
See, I got this on PC, and I started playing it with just the default setup and had a terrible time trying to drive just like a normal sort of Ford Escort or something it was. Couldn't control it at all.
Yeah,
Then I thought, right, okay, I need to mess around a bit. And then I started a career in wanting to build it up. So I started in the go-kart things, and they were fine. Controlled those fine. I thought, okay, well, they're probably a lot, they're not like a real car, whatever. And then just to mess around, see how fast it could go in the fastest cars and that, I thought, right, I'll get in a Formula One car and just drive down the straight. It'll be uncontrollable. Controlled fine. Formula One cars, I could do fine. And it's just the normal sort of road car things that I can't drive in that game.
yeah,
I haven't played a lot of it, and I've left it for a while just because it's one of those games where you can tell it's not quite right. It's not quite finished. It's good, but I'm thinking I'll leave it a couple of weeks and like a couple of patches will come out and they'll fix any major issues that are there, if not all of them. So I haven't gone back to it really since a couple of days after it came out. I haven't played it a lot. but the last game I played, and the only game I ever played with a wheel, was Forza 3, I think,
Hmm.
where I ended up buying the Xbox 360 steering wheel, and I bought one of those stands, the Wheel Stand Pro, to put it on.
Yeah,
It was the first stage of my ongoing midlife crisis, where I'd spent about 150 quid on a wheel and a
yeah,
stand, and it was fun. I got it because I thought, oh, this will be fun, like the old days in the arcades. And it was, and my mate had come round, and we'd sort of both drive a lap and try and get the best time, and that was all I ever did in it. And he came round and we played this and we did the same thing trying to get a lap. And it was fun. And it doesn't matter if you struggle to control it because you're both struggling and you're learning things about it. And it's fun for that kind of thing. But I do think a lot of people will find it too frustrating to bother with. I think it's one that if you can get it for 20 quid or less, like I did on a PC, it's probably, you'll get enough out of it. But at full price, I think you've got to know what you're getting into.
yeah. I think that's kind of what I aimed for at my review. I said like personally, I'm gonna get. I paid full price, but I'm going to get that value out of it. I know I am, so I'm happy with what I paid. There are issues there that other people have to consider. I'm not bothered by, that it's not all there yet, because I will be playing. I'm going to be racing Renault Clio's forever and a day, so sack whatever else is there. I've barely touched half the cars, um, because I'm happy to race those. Um, but other stuff will come, and I'll jump onto that at some point. I've got 20 odd hours plus in it so far, um, and I reckon I'm gonna stick at least 5 times that in it before the end of this year alone. So the value's there, but yeah, it's not a game for everyone. This is not,
No.
the next. It's not a Burnout or a Need for Speed where, um, you can throw a 10-year-old in front of it and they're gonna find some way to get round the track or whatever. This is a serious racer, um, that just so happens to have a bit more of a broader reach than the likes of iRacing. But it's great to see it doing well.
Right. Well, other things are going to come out that are going to compete for the time that you want to pump into Project Cars. Um, so we're going to take a look at what's come out this week
Yeah.
next. And the way I've got this written down, I copied and pasted it from what you sent me. So I haven't actually put this into a list. So it looks like the first thing we've got is Witcher 3 Farming Sim 2015. What's this about?
What, The Witcher 3 Farming Sim 2015? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that special standalone game where you use your magical witching
There's
powers
a lot
to.
of fields and stuff in it, but I didn't realise it was actually a farming sim.
Yeah, yeah, you got to maintain your crops.
Right, okay.
No, I want to come to The Witcher 3 in a minute because apart from Final Fantasy XX2, which we've already spoke at length about, I've not really touched the other two yet. Codename Steam, I like the look of, but not enough to spend 30 odd quid on it yet.
This is
Um,
the like Advance Wars, but different sort of thing that everyone was really excited about, but then it went for a phase where everyone thought, oh, actually, it might be shit, and
yeah,
now it's
it's
like, oh,
a
it might be okay, kind of game.
third person arena type shootery type thing with favourite. It looks okay. What I've seen of it, it looks okay, but not enough that I'm just gonna go. Yeah, let's drop 30 odd quid on that and see what it's like.
What's weird about this game or these games, and I'm not going to buy Codename Steam because I just don't have the time, and I've got other games like it. But the Advance Wars games and more recently Fire Emblem, they're like the opposite of a lot of games I get in that they're games that I look at and think, oh, I'm not going to want to sit there and play that. I'm not going to have the time for that. And then somehow I end up getting them and then end up enjoying them much more than I think I will.
Yeah,
Normally it's the opposite, but with those games, I know they're good. I'm not doubting their quality, but I just think, oh, well, that's not the sort of thing you whack on for Quick Bash. But they actually really are the sort of thing you whack on for Quick Bash, and they're really very good. But this one, I don't know. I'm
I,
not gonna go there.
I
But
was almost sold on steampunk Abraham Lincoln. In all fairness, but it's. I do fancy giving it a go, but I'll wait until a sale for that one. I think.
yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about it, but from what I do know, it looks like Advance Wars with a different sort of graphic style that no one really seems to like that much, apart from the people that really, really do. Um, and shockingly, you don't know much about Farming Sim 2015.
No, again, this is another one of those games where I look at it and I'm unsure. Like, you hear people say it's really good, the farming sim games are really good, and I don't know if I'm on the end of an in-joke that I'm not aware of,
Right.
or whether it genuinely is good. But again, I don't think I'm willing to drop, like, this is a full price
This is
title
the
now. I'm not paying 40 quid for a game that could end up being awful.
this is the for people that don't know what we're talking about, this is the weird sort of latest one of these Japanese role-playing games where you have to farm a guy named Sim of his sperm to create new children to take over the world, isn't it? That's
That sounds, you know what? That sounds a lot tamer than most of those games.
right.
Um,
That's just my understanding. I must have, when I googled it, I must have ended up at a very different website. So
yeah, essentially, it's the same sort of thing as like your Goat Simulators, Euro Truck Simulator, and games like that. Um, this is one of the longer running ones. It's been going back a while. Um,
you have to level up your JCB and
I don't know. It's the thing. The pictures of it and the kind of look. It graphically, it looks really good. It looks like you are farming.
right.
And I think there's logging included in it now and stuff like that as well. And I'm just going, yeah, I kind of really want to play it, but I just can't justify taking a chance at 40 quid.
Yeah, no, I always like the idea of those sorts of games. They're quite relaxing, and you end up sort of if you do ever have a go on them, you end up like getting way more into them
Yeah,
than you would like to. But what we'll do then is we'll go from farming sim and go from simulated ploughing into a game that likes to use the word ploughing and the verb to plough quite a lot in its dialogue trees, I've noticed. And it's The
yes,
Witcher 3. There you go.
yes.
That is
I I've barely scratched the surface on The Witcher 3, but I've put a good few hours into this. I got the good old games version.
I think everyone did. Everyone thought they were going to get the Steam version from various places that they pre-ordered it from, but no one did.
Yeah, I got a couple of places I looked for. That seemed to be the cheapest option. I was gifted a bit of credit to go and get a game with, and I went, "Do you know what? I really want to play The Witcher 3. I've not touched much of The Witcher 1 or Witcher 2, but I thought, "Do you know what? This is looking like Game of the Year material." And I wasn't prepared for what then hit me. Um, the opening movie was just wow. And that's how to draw you in when you've got someone decapitating a horse, and then that same person getting shot through the eye with a raven.
Oh,
Um,
right, yeah.
if a game opens up with that, it's got my attention. That was just, I just sat there and just went, I mean, this is Game of the Year. You've decapitated a horse, and Karma has then gone, this raven's going to fly straight through your eye and kill you. Oh, amazing.
See, the
But then,
problem with playing
God,
this on a PC is that you miss a lot of that when you're staring at that FPS counter in the top corner to see how it's running. That's always the issue.
I've
But
turned that. Oh, well, I haven't got that on good old games. I use the Steam one for stuff like. I was using that a lot for
yeah,
Project Cars because I'm not going to go back into that because that's in the past. We'll probably mention that next week. Um, but yeah, it's just absolutely beautiful. And then the opening tutorial, the kind of ending of that was just like, what? What? What's that all about? I think I'm still doing early side missions, and I've clocked a good few hours in this already, and I'm just still in that little first area.
what
Doing
happened at the end of the tutorial? I mean, I don't know if we're doing spoilers on this or not. I don't even know if it is a spoiler, but I've played it. I don't know.
he's chasing what's the Siri, the little girl, isn't she? I
Right?
think she's called.
Yeah,
She's a big iPhone
yeah.
type thing.
I wonder if
And she
people's
runs
iPhones
around.
go off every time they talk about her in. Just imagine having your iPhone sat there and someone in the game says Siri, and your iPhone's like, "What?"
Yeah,
But,
that's how she responds. You say, Siri, some more of the parkour, please, and parkour is da 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 da. But no, there's a bit at the end, so there's a little bit of an invasion, and she gets captured, and he kind of at the last thing he sees is what looks like her about to be murdered, and it cuts, and it's a dream, and it's just like, oh.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
it's kind of like at that. I'm not talking, The Last of Us emotion or anything like that. But it done enough in that short opening 10-15 minutes. But for whatever reason, I cared about these characters already, and this is from someone who's not played any of the other games. Um, and I barely got that far, but I loved the horse controls. Little thing, you go into a gentle canter and just hold A, and it follows the path for you. You haven't got to keep this horse going in the right
It
direction.
follows a path if you're on one, doesn't it?
Yeah,
But it doesn't follow like the dotted path to quest thing. You have to
no,
still guide it onto that.
yeah, but for
Um,
the point when you've got to travel for about 20 minutes on horseback or something, and it's going to be maybe a lot of path,
yeah,
not having to constantly adjust, and you can then use the right stick just to have a little look around. Why, it's
yeah.
beautiful.
It's a nice feature, and it's one that I think they're meant to be putting something similar into the new Zelda game if that
Yeah,
ever comes out, aren't they? Yeah. I mean, I bought this without knowing anything about it because I saw it cheap and I saw there was a lot of fuss about it. So I thought, well, I'll pre-order it, see how it runs on my new PC and all of that. Um, and I then saw that the second game was going for a couple of quid last week or something. So I thought, oh, for £2, I'll buy that, and if nothing else, it will familiarise me with the controls a bit and get me into what's going on, so I can go into the new one a little bit more knowing what's going on.
mm,
And this game, the third one, I did think I'll play through the second one, but I don't know. I don't know how far I got into it. Maybe 10 hours I put into it, and it was quite good. But there was a lot of annoyances about it. A lot of things that were just like, oh, it's one of these games, isn't it? It's like you have to go off and do something, go back, then be told you've got to go back and do something slightly different, and then come back again, and then do that again for someone else. And it's just like, nah. So I was actually playing the second game first, actually sort of made me a bit wary of this. But then
mm,
playing this straight away, you get into that combat tutorial and you realise, well, this is a lot better. For me, I much prefer the combat. I think they've simplified a lot of things that some people that are really into their archaic role playing systems might say, oh, it's too simple. But I think it's a lot better. Um, and from what I've played of it, it does seem really good. The only thing, and it's my issue with these games in general, is everyone at the moment seems to be loving it and thinking it's really, really great. But I wonder how boring it might get after a while. I mean, you're going to put loads of hours into it, but it's like Skyrim. When I started that, I really liked it. Really liked the sense of open world adventure and all of that. And then after 20 hours or so, it's like, uh, yeah, there's no real reason for me to keep doing this. Why am I still doing this? I've got the idea now. You sort of get the idea and you realize there's nothing new. You're just going to keep doing more of it. And if you like it, that's enough.
yeah,
But I think with this game, it is a little bit more focused and it has a little bit more story, so it might keep you going a bit more. It's definitely a more grown up sort of thing than Skyrim was. And yeah, it remains to be seen, but that's always my issue with these games is that after a while, you sort of think, right, I've kind of got what this is about, and I know how to do everything, and can I be bothered to keep doing it or not now?
yeah. I mean, the issue I had with stuff like Skyrim, I didn't have this with Fallout because I thought this worked really well with Fallout, is the story. Keeping a game going for 80 to 100 odd hours and stuff like that. Fallout, I felt, did that really well. I didn't quite get there with Skyrim or Elder Scrolls. Now, that may just be an interest thing for me, but I'm there with The Witcher. So far, I feel like I'm really invested in the story, even at this early stage. And if that story can do enough to warrant me pushing on, then I will play this through to completion. Um, but at the moment, the writing does seem really good, and the options you have when talking to people seem really natural as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I do think what helps this game a little bit is that from I haven't played a huge amount of it. I've played like 4 hours, maybe, probably less than that. But the game mechanics seem a bit more gamey than they do in a lot of these games. A lot of
Yeah.
them, it's like, oh, look at this huge open world. Look at all the things you can do. But the way that you do it is pretty much hold one stick in one direction and look around with the other one, and then occasionally press some buttons to fight someone. Um, that's really simplifying it. But the actual video game playing mechanics are often very weak in these games.
Mm.
Whereas in this, they seem like there's a little bit more to them. It feels a little bit more like you're playing a video game rather than looking round a 3D world that someone's built in some sort of program.
Yeah.
There is a little bit more game to it, I think. So, but it's the kind of thing you can only really judge after 30 hours or so, which, by which point you've got your money's worth, even if you do stop playing then.
Yeah, I think there is that to it. And I think this is something we'll probably speak more about once this hits #1 in the charts next week. And we'll probably go on about. We've obviously going to have played a bit more of it ourselves, and we'll talk about it then. Purely because there's not much coming out next week either, which I think is a nice way to transition through.
Okay, so next week then, what is coming out?
There's Hyperdimension Neptunia U
Which
Action Unleashed.
Makes me believe it's a Wii U game, is it?
Yeah, if this would never be allowed on a Nintendo Wii U, I actually think a Nintendo console would self-implode if it had a Hyperdimension Neptunia game on it. It's a Japanese idol RPG.
Right.
It's got lots of scantily clad women.
That you genuinely made me think it was a Wii U game.
Did I?
Yeah, I'm googling it now, and
You're not at work.
Yeah.
You're not at work.
I'm not at work.
That's okay.
No, but yeah, it looks interesting. It looks right up my street.
Yeah,
Definitely.
But we've got a review of that on the website at the moment, reviewed by Natalie. And yeah, it's average apparently. So not much to look forward to there.
You'd have thought with these 2D, I mean, I'm examining these screenshots quite carefully, and you'd have thought with these 2D images, they could have like smoothed the edges a bit. I know they're quite hexagonal buttocks on some of these, but I suppose it's system limitations and everything.
It's on the Vita, but it's there's not much I want to say. I'm hoping this doesn't hit the charts because I don't want to talk about this next week much. I'm not going to play it, so I'll say to everyone now, if you're interested, read the review on GameStyle.com and see what our Japanese RPG fan thought.
Okay, so the next one I've got, and this might be another one where the list has sort of combined two games, but on this case, I genuinely don't know. So this might be the title: Action Unleashed PSA World Tour Squash 2015.
Right, no, it's PSA World Tour Squash 2015 for Wii and Wii U.
Oh, right, okay. Squash.
Yes.
Not often sort of
video
gamed up, no. What? Is that good? Is it? Do you know anything about this one, or?
I don't. I'm going to suggest it's going to be crap.
I mean, squash to me is like, it seems to me like sort of tennis if you've got no one to play with. So you hit the ball against the wall, but then someone turns up and you're like, oh, do you want to play as well? And we've ended up sort of playing this weird 2-player game of tennis against a wall when we could just now play tennis because there's two of us.
Yeah, it's bloody brutal though. Balls they actually use for that are rock hard.
Yeah. It just looks like I don't have a high-powered enough job to play squash. I think you need to be making decisions before you can play squash, really,
Yeah.
don't you?
Well, you say that. The sports centre that my son's a member of, part of his child membership includes free use of the squash courts
Ah,
for a child.
yeah. Well,
I don't know why. There's plenty of other things you could get free use of, but they decided to let children play squash.
are all their tournaments sort of sponsored by Robinsons and various sort of squash drink manufacturers?
No, tennis has already cornered those.
Uh,
You see,
it's like they're, you know, missing a trick there.
yeah, that's
So
it's probably like Scotch or something for the business types that do it.
So that must mean that there's a game coming out next week that's just called Action Unleashed, which sounds like.
No, that's the Hyper Dimension Neptunia U game.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's part of that, right?
Yes,
Okay, right.
I will make sure your notes you get next time are a bit more
That's right.
formatted.
It's my fault. I could have investigated, but none of these games seemed worthy of my effort. To be
You're the
honest.
host. It's me that should know all this anyway.
Okay, Steins Gate. Then
Steins Gate. It's a visual novel for the Vita. It's not for me, but I believe Adam reviewed it and he was rather impressed.
really
Yes. Um,
never heard of it.
I have it's Japanese inspired, but more the darker Japanese inspired stuff rather than the anime porn type stuff that we tend to get. Um, it's reviewed well. People seem to have
Let's have a
a
look at
lot
this.
about it. But yeah, it's coming next week. It's been
Oh
out in
right, it
Japan
looks a
for
bit Persona-y.
yes and no.
Right.
There is an element of that there.
Okay.
Um, but it's you know what, it's okay. I'd imagine if you like your visual novels. If you don't, it's not
It
going to
looks
do
all
much
right.
for you.
Again, it's the sort of thing that I'd look at and think, oh, I like the look of that, and then realise that no, I'm never gonna sit there and play through that.
No.
Um, okay, so that's next week's releases. Before we go, then, one last thing I want to throw at you.
Yeah.
You've got a reputation of sort of always finding the best in games. You like you like your games, it's fair to say.
Yeah.
So I'm going to force you to pick out either from the charts or this week's releases your shittest thing of the week. You need to tell me what the worst thing we've spoken about today is.
Okay. So you're thinking you're catching me, but this is going to be really, really, really easy.
I know what you're going to go for already, I think.
Oh, I'm torn actually. There's two I want to go for, but it's the next week one, so I don't have to. It's FIFA.
Really?
It's
FIFA?
FIFA. I am at a point. Well, I'm going to use FIFA to then go into generally all sports games. The new NHL got announced this week, and I've looked at that and just gone, really? I just want just make it so it works as a game. I don't care about playoff beards being a big part of your innovation. It is part of hockey, but you know it's not something to go. Oh, look at our new game. It's exciting. You can grow a beard. No, I'm sorry. Improve the AI and stuff like that. Let's get a true next gen sports simulation because apart from probably NBA 2K, which is even going downhill now, there's no decent simulations of sports titles. They're all awful. I think FIFA is the worst, one of the worst of the lot. Um,
FIFA 2015 is pretty good.
it is. It,
Although I will say it's only pretty good on PlayStation 4 and I assume Xbox One. It's not as good on a PC because it's not quite the same version. It's somewhere in between. And on the last gen consoles, it's decent, but it's still not as good. I mean, the other versions are good, but it's the next gen consoles versions that are
yeah.
genuinely quite good.
The problem with Pro Evo now, um, and I'm not going to swear much on these shows, but the problem with Pro Evo is fuck Konami. So yeah, out of principle, I probably won't touch another Pro Evo. Probably won't touch another FIFA. Sports games have got make a change somewhere, or give us back some of the EA big stuff. Do you know what? That stuff was great.
So
Um,
what's your issue with Konami? Just their
Kojima, Metal Gear, PT, Silent Hills, the way they're treating everything. Um,
right.
they've ruined everything. Every decent IP they had, they're doing away with it, and just screw Konami.
Yeah, I mean, I get the feeling that Konami's been a very separate and disparate selection of various teams for a while. I don't even view the makers of one Konami game and the makers of another Konami game as the same company anymore. Really, they've just always seemed so different for a while that it's never really occurred to me that they are all apparently the same company. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a fair point. But then, by the same token, EA. But FIFA 15 was terrible. I'm
Yeah.
hopeful that the fact that Konami did make a decent Pro Evo game might force EA to step up their game a bit, and maybe 2016 will be a better FIFA game. But
Essentially, what will happen, do you know, like when you go to the hospital, when you go in the toilet, and you've got those options where you can get a little blue sticker and put it on your little sample bottle, and that tells the doctor you feel unsafe with your partner because abusive relationship and stuff like that. What's going to happen with
got
FIFA
no idea
16?
what you're talking about. But all right.
Some people will. If you spend a lot of time in a hospital, some people will. That you can do that. You get a little blue sticker, you put it on your pot, and when you hand it to the doctor, they see that blue sticker, and they go, right, okay, we know to do something to keep this person separate from that person because they're in an abusive relationship. Essentially, Game and HMV and stuff like that could have that system on copies of FIFA. You get your little blue sticker, you put it on your copy of FIFA, you hand it over, and you're basically telling them that you're going, look, EA, they're hurting me every year. They hurt me. They give me these promises and it doesn't come through. I need out. I need out, and that's what's going to happen there. FIFA 16 is gonna. You'll play it and you go, this is decent. You'll play it again. You'll just go, Jesus Christ, this is just getting worse. They need
I
an
don't
overhaul.
I don't play these games online, so I think you know the FIFA games, their AI offline is so bad that it makes them
Yeah,
very boring. I don't play them online because people just don't play.
no,
They don't play the football game. They play the exploit game, and it's
yeah,
just nah. Um, so I'm in a weird sort of position with those games. Pro Evo was fun to play in the manager mode online and offline two player, but yeah, I think yeah, we'll see. But you're probably right.
yeah. I'm done with sports games for the time being.
Except that new Joe Montana, that might be good. Might.
Well, yeah, that's a bastion of hope, but I don't know. We'll see. But generally, at the moment, I think for the first time in my gaming life, I'm looking at even NHL, but I'm looking at all the 16 releases and just going, nah, not bothered.
Well, on that note, let's leave it till next week. I think we've probably gone on a little bit longer than we intended to, but it's the first one,
Yeah,
so you
we'll
know.
finish obviously the game of the week.
Oh, game of the week. Are we doing a game of the week? Okay.
We
What is
will
the
do a
game of
game of
the
the
week?
week. It's quite clearly The Witcher 3 this week. If it had been last week, I would have given it to Not a Hero because that's absolutely amazing. Do check it out. But this week, I think it's got to be The Witcher 3.
And if it had been late 1994 or 1995, it would have been Secret of Mana.
Yeah.
Um, so that's going to do it then, and hopefully you've enjoyed that, and you'll come back next week for a more snappy, concise version of the same thing, which will just get better and better and better.
Yes. Although I'm not looking forward to doing next week's reviews of games, I might look see what's come out on Steam that I've enjoyed as well. Because
I'm going to look a lot more into that Hyperdimension Neptunia U Action Unleashed game because I feel like I did everyone a disservice by not knowing enough about it. So I'm going to spend a lot of time looking at that.
it's easier just to go to porn sites. In all fairness.
Yep. That's I mean this other one looks quite porny as well, this Steins Gate.
Nah, it's not too bad. I don't think in comparison.
It's like the same kind of thing for people that are a little bit more. If Hyperdimension Neptunia is for readers of The Sun, Steins Gate is the same thing for people that read The Guardian.
That's a decent roundup, I think.
That is, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so bye you later, and we'll see you again next week.
Goodbye.